Hey, what's up guys? Jerome here from the Bonsai Supply, and today I have a super fun project. I am going to create a dwarf jade forest. So I have 5 different trees, 5 different sizes, and they also range in different ages as well. The youngest tree that I have is about 3 years old, which is this one, and then the oldest and biggest tree is this one over here, which is about 6 to 8 years old. Now originally I had planned to train these trees as individual trees. As you can see with this one over here, it is styled and wired in a informal upright style. And then actually Mari suggested, she said, hey, why don't you take these 5 cool, very unique looking trees and create a forest? And I said, you might be onto something. So here I am about to build a dwarf jade forest. Now, a couple things here to note is that it is in the middle of the summer, which is a perfect time to work on tropical trees such as these guys, dwarf jades and tropical trees. The only thing that I suggest, and this really only applies to dwarf jades, is to stop watering about a week to 2 weeks before you plan to repot them. And that's just so that you can slow down the water movement throughout the tree. Okay, so I stopped watering 2 weeks ago and I am ready to go now. Now the first thing that we're going to do is actually break down the root balls and reduce them to a more manageable size. Alright, so now the first step obviously is to break down the root ball, and what I do is I kind of massage and squeeze the pot a little bit just so that the tree comes out of the pot easier. Here we go. Perfect. And as you can see, the root ball is completely dry, which is perfect for me to break it down. It's a lot easier than if it was wet. And I'm going to use a number of tools here. So I'm going to use a chopstick. I'm going to use the chopstick to work away the soil from around the base of the root spread. And the chopstick is made out of wood, so it's not going to hurt the root spread if I do scratch it, as you can see over here. And then I'm going to use a rake to then work down the perimeter of the root ball and really shrink this down, because I want to pot the trees as close together as possible to make the forest look more interesting as well as older. So let me go ahead. So as you can see, I reduced the root ball quite a bit, which is okay on jades because I can technically cut the tree in half and just plant the top and it would re-root. So I don't have to worry about removing a large section of the root ball. And since I want to pot them as close together as possible, I really want to make sure that I clean this up and really almost bare root the trees. And so this is about a good section of roots that I'm going to keep. And I'm going to go ahead and break down the rest of the trees. I did use some scissors close up to kind of clean up all of these fine roots in between, just to highlight the root spread more, and I also used a little brush. Alright, so now that all the trees are prepared, I took a bonsai plastic training pot. And what's cool about this is, especially when you create forests, you can drill holes exactly where you want the trees to place. So I already pre-drilled the holes that came with the pot, so they are already kind of like pre-drilled and you just finish, but I could also add some more holes if need be. And so now what I'll do here is I take the biggest tree, because when you build a forest, you always start with the biggest tree and then you build around that tree to create the forest. And so what I look for at this point is I don't really focus on the branches too much. I focus mainly on the root spread. And so even though at the beginning I like this better as a front for the tree, however, the back side of it has a much better root spread. So I'm actually going to turn the tree around and use this nice root spread as the front of the tree, which means I will have to remove some branches as I go. So the first job is to place the main tree exactly where I want to place it. And then I'm going to tie it down, and once I place the next tree, that's when I'm start to remove branches to fit the next tree into the puzzle. So I think that this is pretty good. So I think I'm going to go with the main tree in this fairly in the center. I'm going to pot it slightly off the center but still center-ish, and I'm going to go ahead now and put a fine layer of our all-purpose bonsai soil in the bottom and then plant this tree on top. So let's go ahead. So this is the final result of our forest composition today. So let me walk you through a couple things that I did here. I started with the first tree. When you create a forest, always start with the main biggest tree, and you can place that one anywhere inside the pot. So you can have it all the way to the left, or to the back, or to the front, or to the side. And then the rest, that kind of dictates on how the forest is going to be placed. That dictates the flow of the forest as well as the spacing. So I took this tree and I kind of pushed it further to the front than I normally would. And then I built these three trees around the main trunk and then spaced this one off to the side. And my idea was that you can see from the front, you can see all four trunks, and it's going to be a really dense canopy over here. So that's kind of what I went here for, and I think it came out really well for its very first styling and planting. After I planted, I then went ahead and just trimmed everything back into shape. Now I'm going to take this tree, put it outside, but now with the dwarf jade, after you repot it, you shouldn't put it right out into full sun or water it right away. So I'm going to put it outside into a shaded area, not water. If rain is on the horizon, I'm going to move it under a canopy so it doesn't get rain. And I want to keep a close eye on the leaves of the jade. As soon as it starts to push growth, that's when I know it's ready for me to give it its very first watering. I'm going to give it its very first watering, and then in about 30 days, I'm going to give it its very first fertilizing. Now I'm going to leave this forest in this pot for probably about 4 to 5 years before I repot it again. I want all of these roots of these trees to kind of mesh into each other and create a carpet of roots, so that when I repot it next time, I only have to use one wire here and one on this side, and then that's it. So I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. And I gotta hand it to Mari. She had a great idea with this forest. If you have any questions on jades or anything else, please comment below. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
All right.